What just happened with this Boston Celtics team? After a big win in Toronto just last night, the Celtics flew on over to Detroit and took on a hot Detroit Pistons team. And once again, short-handed, fell short to this squad and unfortunately snapped their 6-game win streak. We're going to be diving in and looking at ultimately what went wrong in tonight's matchup. Ultimately, what could be the excuse for the Boston Celtics, and overall, as a whole, why it is not that big of a deal that the Celtics lost this game. We'll be getting into all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez, and you guys have been fantastic, showing your love and support on the channel, which has been super, super appreciative over the last couple of weeks. And thank you guys so much for everyone that came into the stream today. It was super, super fantastic once again, and I just want to say thank you guys. So thank you everyone who's shown support on channel here and over on social medias as well, as we've gotten a little bit of spike of popularity over the last couple of days, and it doesn't go unnoticed. But without further ado, let's dive in and let's get into the news at hand today. In this episode, as unfortunately, it was a tough watch for the Boston Celtics tonight, as a lot of things went wrong with this team, and ultimately we did find out some other good things as well with the Celtics squad in this disappointing loss. And like I mentioned as well, it is not something to overreact with. It is not something to freak out about with the Celtics losing this game overall, in my opinion, because like I mentioned, they were coming off a back-to-back after they just had played the Toronto Raptors last night and got a big victory. Being shorthanded, they once again shorthanded tonight versus the Detroit Pistons, where they lost by 20 points, and they had no Jaylen Brown and no Luke Cornett tonight. The centers were back in the lineup, but the centers weren't able to help out as Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren were absolutely cooking them down low, which we'll get into in a little bit. Celtics were outscored with points in the paint, and the Celtics were only able really to hold themselves in this game with some decent three-point shooting in the second quarter. And for like a quarter and a half from the end of the first to into the second, they were doing a pretty solid 3-point job shooting from that range. But after that, got a little bit stagnant. The Celtics' interior defense was, again, not great tonight. And ultimately, they just made some boneheaded plays. And with no Jaylen Brown tonight, with no second star, they needed some other players to step up and deliver for them to get the victory. And that was not the case. The Detroit Pistons played with more heart. And with the Celtics obviously being a little bit tired coming off of that back-to-back, it obviously was shown. If we want to look at the starting lineup, the two key players for the Boston Celtics tonight that ultimately played the best, in my opinion, were Derrick White, Jayson Tatum, and Peyton Pritchard. Those three guys gave it their all, sorry. But in the starting lineup, Derrick White and Jayson Tatum were those guys. Derrick White, 6 for 12 for the field again, 5 for 10 for three-point range. Had a really cool circus three-point shot as well, where he like alley-ooped it from the three-point range. Last night, got some big key dunks as the three-point line, as the center, as a playing defense. And we've seen Derrick White in this recent stretch really get hot from three-point range once again. Mr. Clutch for the Boston Celtics. Whenever they need a basket, whenever they need to find a three-pointer, they're usually going to go to Derrick White, and he's going to deliver for this team. Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, they all know that, and that's what I love about this Celtics team. Tatum as well played a very effective game for the Celtics. 27 points, 3 assists, 6 rebounds, 4 for 9 from the field, 10 for 19 from the field, but was realistically just doing it all, trying to help out with this Celtics team. And unfortunately for him and Derrick White, it just was no one else really there to help pick up the slack. Porziņģis, 4 for 11, did hit a nice three-pointer, but unfortunately was just getting scored on by Isaiah Stewart, Beef Stew, and Jalen Duren down low. Was not a good interior defender tonight. Al Horford in the game where he came back had 10 rebounds, so it was an effective rebounder for the Celtics team, but once again just wasn't really delivering offensively. 3 for 9, did hit some threes later on, but throughout the game where he was getting some early opportunities when the Celtics were hot, he wasn't really delivering. And Jrue Holiday back into this game for the Celtics, 2 for 10 from the field. Once again, not the greatest offensive game from Jrue, and Jrue doesn't bring offense for the Celtics team a majority of the night, so it's not necessarily a knock sometimes with a guy like Jaylen Brown. And with Kristaps Porziņģis not playing the best offensively, you need a guy like Jrue Holiday to really step up and deliver to help this team. And unfortunately for the Celtics, that just wasn't the case. You look towards the bench, like I mentioned, Peyton Pritchard played some very meaningful minutes. 6 for 10 from the field, 5 for 8 from three-point range, 18 points for Peyton Pritchard here tonight. And Peyton Pritchard is just absolutely fantastic for this Celtics squad. He just does it all. Got fouled on by Isaiah Stewart as well. Was bleeding everywhere. So was Jordan Walsh. Kind of crazy to see. Peyton Pritchard plays with that hard-nosed defensive nature that we see. He's built like a bulldog. He trains like that. That's why the Celtics love his attitude and why he represents a Celtic. And ultimately, that's why I love him as a Celtic as well. Unfortunately for the Celtics tonight, there were some players that didn't play their greatest. Sam Hauser, I will give some credit as well. He played some solid game tonight. 3 points, 12 minutes, only one shot, so you got to give him credit for his 100%. Unfortunately for the Celtics, Namish Keita just did not play great. We saw him get into foul trouble early yesterday, and today was once again just getting sliced up by defenders. And without Luke Cornett, it has been a clear issue with these backup centers for the Celtics. Last night, it obviously was because they didn't have Al Horford, Kristaps Porziņģis, and as well with Luke Cornett. So it was a little bit more of a glaring issue where you were like, all right, it's just because they don't have the centers. That's why, they need Keita to step up. But even with the centers tonight, with no Luke Cornett, with Keita having to have a pretty solid defensive game here tonight as a backup center, he was unable to do that. Just looking lost and just not being where he needed to be for the Celtics in certain situations offensively and defensively. And as you know, a third, fourth string center, he's not really asked to do this as much, but in a night where he was definitely needed to be one of those stay ready guys, and where we've seen the stay ready guys have this mentality to really deliver in moments like this, it was just kind of unfortunate to see when the Celtics needed it most. But like I said, it's nothing to really overreact with, nothing to really lose sleep over, because the Celtics are going to be a-okay. Like I said, yes, their 6-game winning streak has been snapped. The Pistons' 8-game winning streak is now going to, or 7-game win streak will now continue to 8. But the Pistons were a great team tonight. Tobias Harris was playing absolutely fantastic basketball. Asar Thompson played some great defense on Jayson Tatum, and even got Jayson Tatum to fall at one point, where Jayson Tatum got to break Cade Cunningham as well. But guys like Malik Beasley were just absolutely electric for this Pistons team. 26 points off the bench, 6 for 11 from three-point range. Tim Hardaway can also do that as well. Not as really effective tonight. Ron Holland played pretty solid basketball. And yes, this Pistons team is legit. They are a team that personally could potentially win a playoff series depending on the matchup that they do get, and I think is going to be a very fun and exciting team. This is the Pistons team that everybody has been kind of waiting for over the last couple seasons to really emerge with Cade Cunningham, and it's finally coming through with fruition. And I think a lot of fans are going to be excited to see what this Pistons team can do this year, but also in the future, with them obviously continuing to grow with this young core that they do have. But the Celtics, once again, lose to a Pistons team that they've already beaten in this season multiple times earlier on, in a night where they were shorthanded with no Jaylen Brown and no Luke Cornett, arguably two of their more impactful players, as Luke Cornett has been one of their best backup bigs, and honestly one of the most underappreciated bigs in the league on this Celtics team, and one of the best contracts in the NBA. And I'm definitely going to be cooking up a video tomorrow talking about Luke Cornett and how much value he truly does bring to this Celtics team. So you're definitely going to want to check that out as well. Ultimately, I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And let me know your thoughts on this Celtics team. Like I said, they're still second in the Eastern Conference. They lost to a really hot Pistons team, but they were shorthanded. It's a-okay coming off a back-to-back. Wait for Friday, the gear-up game versus Cleveland. I expect this team to bounce back fully healthy with Jaylen Brown, Luke Cornett fully in action, and hopefully they'll be able to get the win like we've all been waiting for. That's the true test, the true sentiment, as the Cavs are obviously the top team in the Eastern Conference. But even if the Celtics lose that game, still don't think it's time to overreact. Obviously, this team is going to be a confident team going into the postseason, and I am not worried at all. But let me know your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. What you guys ultimately think. Unfortunately, Celtics struggled a little bit offensively, had a lot of turnovers throughout this game, were allowing the opposing team to score in the paint way too much, and just had some defensive flaws that ultimately cost this game. Would have been nice to have Jaylen Brown. I think he would have definitely helped out the Celtics in a matchup like this versus a Pistons, a little bit more of a rugged, physical, more scoring interior team. But it's a-okay. I do feel that the Celtics will bounce back, and once again, I'm not worried. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, how you guys ultimately feel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your night, and go Boston Celtics. Peace out, everyone.